Here we are in the heart of Wayland Wood. It's an ancient woodland that goes back to the Ice Age. And its name comes from Wayland, which is from the Viking, and it means place of worship. It has a really strange, eerie feeling, as if the magic of the past, the fae folk, if you will, that kind of thing, still lingers here. It's used now for coppicing in amongst the bigger trees. And there's all kinds of amazing species here, like the Viburnum opulus, which is otherwise known as the Gelder rose. And so the cathedral elements of this at the back of the wood, there's something extremely magical about them. The way the wind blows through, it really does feel like time slows down. And although this wood has now been hit by ash dieback, the upside to that is that there's a lot of fungus, really giant fungus, that grows at certain times of the year through the summer and into the autumn. And so in this wood as well is a colony of badgers and other such creatures such as dormice. It just has such an incredible feel to it, and it's one of these places that you really need to come and experience to get the feel from it. So yes, you can see here is a tree suffering from the ash dieback, and it is really a shame, but they've now stopped cutting these trees down with the ash dieback because some of them will be resistant and survive. So here we have a shooting stand. Being a small wood, and like many woodlands in the UK, the apex predators no longer exist. As we all know, there's no wolves anymore, at least in this part of the UK. I don't know if they've reintroduced them to some of the islands in Scotland. I can't quite remember if they've done that or not, but they have to cull the deer, because otherwise this place would be devoured, because there's so many of them. When you're shooting with a high-powered rifle, like a 303, I think they are, but anyway, when you're shooting, you cannot be shooting straight across the ground, because if you miss your target, or if you don't hit anything between here and where somebody is, that round can go a couple of miles, and they're big rounds and they're powerful rounds, so if they hit somebody, they're very likely to kill them. They're designed obviously to kill big animals like big deer. And so you have an elevation where you shoot down, and so the round goes into the ground. And the other way that that's done is if you have like a hill or a rise in the ground behind the target you're shooting at. And so that's what these are as you go through the forest. Not just so they can see the deer, it's so that they don't accidentally miss and kill somebody that's driving on the road, for example. So that's what they are. Wow, that's cool. What we get in these woodlands is a lot of coppice, and all of this to either side is coppice. And so what happens is that they let this get to a certain thickness. This is all cut close to the ground, and then it grows up, and what you end up with is really excellent shelter for small creatures, dormice and other such little guys. And badgers and things like that. So there's a lot of shelter here in the winter if we do have a harsh winter. It also, of course, produces a lot of hazelnuts, which things like the dormice and other creatures and squirrels really love. So it's really beneficial for all the creatures that are here. There's species like ferns, This is a nice native fern right here, and you can see that something is made out of the leaf, has drawn this leaf together, webbed it, and created a little place to live. That is a spider that's done that, and there is a little moth that, if he's not careful, is likely to be the spider's prey. Wow. Gotta watch out for those killer pigeons. Every now and again you'll find little dens and things in here where I guess kids come in and make a den and do those really great childhood things that a lot of kids don't seem to do that much anymore, which is a shame. Wow. I've had an infestation of caterpillars this year. They've been eating their way through this native viburnum, the Guelder rose, leaving these kind of eerie cobwebs all through there, and on many of the bigger trees around. Interesting. I love the mossy ground and things through here. There's something a little bit magical about it. A lot of deadfall. And here there's been some fungus and disease come through here and claim some victims in some of the trees. But of course what it does is it leaves glades like this where new saplings from different species can kind of come up and have their own chance of filling the space. Wow, that sounded like the tree saying hi. There's a couple of branches knocking together and it's like... Wow. They're not happy, but they're surviving, you know, from the ash dieback. These ones seem to be surviving. There's a big open area here where you're getting these saplings come up, and this is the nature of the forest. And you know, fungus and disease has its role within nature. Without some kind of destruction, there can be no new life, and it's just the way that the cycle of nature is. And sometimes that's hard to deal with, and we know that as human beings, but in this kind of situation you can see quite directly the benefit of having now more light in this space. And I think the tree agrees. It's making noises. There's ivy hanging here as well, it's pretty cool. Huh? Here we can see some evidence of some of the disease. This kind of fungus travels with its mycelium, which are the white threads that really are the mushroom, the fungus. They travel underneath the layers of the bark and eventually take over and kill the tree, which is what you can see here. The woods can be a little bit dangerous. If you come into a wood like this on a rainy day with so much hanging wood, if you're not careful you can catch one on the top of your head. If you're camping in a wood like this, not that you can camp in this one, you can't, but if you're camping in a wood with a lot of deadfall, you've got to be very, very careful where you pitch up for the night, because you can get a knock on the head. Look at it all through there, look. Just smashed up. So we're now entering the back of the wood where you start to get these taller trees, and this is where you start to get this sense of cathedral-like feel to things. Wow, that is a beast of a tree. It's beautiful bark as well. Look at that. That just goes straight up. Wow, amazing. Big old oak tree. Looking really healthy actually. He's got his feet in this pond here. There's plenty of water for him. In fact, for all these trees down here, they've got plenty of water. Of course, you've got dragonfly larvae and stuff coming out of these ponds. Although this year it's been dry, so we've got a very low level on here now. You've got a hole there that looks like something could quite easily make a home for itself in there, like kind of maybe a woodpecker or something like that. You can smell the decay and the life. Look at this. Look at how beautiful that is. Look at that. The light on there. It's just a beautiful canopy. We're starting to get into this really tall woodland now. And this is where you start to get this feel of presence, of kind of a magic, you know. If the Vikings were worshipping here in their kind of pagan nature worship, this is the part of wood they were doing it in. It certainly feels that way anyway. It's quite special. Look at the bark. Look at this. Something very special about this bark. It's so smooth. You know, nature is amazing. It creates all kinds of fascinating patterns and structures. It's just incredible. This whole area through here in the springtime, all through the back of this woods, is covered in bluebells. This is just absolutely beautiful because the blue light is reflected up into the trees and you get this kind of ethereal blue-green feel. And it's just, it's astonishing, really astonishing. So this is said to be the woodland where the story or the nursery rhyme or the myth or whatever you want to call it of Babes in the Wood is based, which is actually a pretty horrific story. It's kind of like Hansel and Gretel, but without the kids being rescued. They're actually left here to die, and they die. It's kind of like the medieval stories were a lot more brutal than the happy Hollywood endings we have today. So that is like another part of this woodland's history, connected very deeply to not just the culture locally, but also the national culture and mythology, if you will. It's an absolutely fascinating wood, and I can see why it is, because as I say, to be here, to feel this place, definitely an ancient woodland, has been here since the Ice Age. And as I say, with the number of plants and kind of species here, you really get a sense of that while you're here. It's very varied. And so this is the edge of the woodland. They've had a very deep ditch dug around the perimeter to really separate the wood from the field on the other side. I should imagine at some point this was all part of that ancient woodland, and it's just shrunk back to this area, which is still reasonably large, but it would have been much bigger. You know, and some people talk about winning the lottery, and they say, I'd buy a car, and I'd buy a house, and I'd buy all these things. I would buy the land surrounding this area and add back to this woodland to protect it, because it really does feel like one of these last fragments of ancient magic reaching all the way back. It really feels like one of those places, like things here are just hanging on still, you know. Almost like there's fairies in the woods. I know that sounds like a ridiculous thing to say, but there is that kind of feel to it. It feels very much like you're being watched. You should imagine it's all the little creatures, the badgers and things, and the little dormice and all the other creatures hoping that we would just leave soon. So maybe we will. This looks very much like this ivy has grown round a log, and the log has rotted away, leaving the ivy in this perfect cage hanging off of this tree branch. It looks really amazing. You can keep stuff all the way in there. Like, how cool is that? I love all these twisted shapes of the branches and things, and the way that everything kind of twists around. It's another huge oak tree. Wow. Look at this thing. It's just like, it's huge. Absolutely massive. I wonder how old that is. It's got to be at least 400 years old, something like that. 300 or 400 years old. Amazing. Ha! Now here is something very interesting. Down in here, I don't know if you can spot all the bumblebees. They have made themselves a home in here, these bumblebees. There are many, many of them. And it looks like something's dug the ground up to get at them. I would say a badger has been through here and opened this ground up, knowing that there was a bumblebee nest in here, and has disturbed them. But you can see they're all kind of doing their thing. So there's one dead one in the middle, unfortunately. But I think they'll be okay, they'll thrive. But I would say a badger has had a little nibble at them. There's still plenty of them though. The interesting thing about these bumblebees is that they all die off during the winter time, and they leave the queen in place. So every year the queen starts fresh with a new brood. So hopefully these guys will survive after the badger attack, because you can see how much of the ground has been disturbed here. So it's interesting to see the kind of the living woodland, if you will, where you're seeing things like that happen, where you're seeing evidence of badgers going about their business. That bee's nest, if the badger hadn't have dug that up, we probably would never have known that was there, because you know, you maybe have one little hole like this which the bees would have come out. You'd have gone, oh, there's a bee's nest, but you wouldn't have understood the extent of it. So the badger has revealed that, and it's just, again, part of the natural cycle of things. So it's very interesting to see that, actually. So you can see here as well, just walking away from those bees, you come down, it just does, again and again, this sign of this caterpillar infestation on this viburnum, the Viburnum opulus. And it's just covered in this weird kind of cobweb mesh all through here. You can see it particularly here, actually, it shows up quite well, where they've just devoured these plants. It doesn't kill them, they come back every year. Some years the infestation of the caterpillar is more than other years. So smell is amazing. God, it smells great. It smells so good in here, like I can't even, it's like vanilla or something. It's just such a fantastic smell. Watch out for these brambles. In fact, it's a bit brambly through here. Young oak tree, found a nice little spot in a patch of sunlight. Again, where we've got some dead wood fallen, the young get a chance to come to life. Really nice little tree. Beautiful little tree. Don't get an ego now, tree. Okay. You can see where the deer cross over this ditch into this field and back, making a trail, and all their little hoof marks on this slope going down into the ditch and up the other side. And over here somebody has a privately owned bit of land. There's a kind of copse of woodland right in the middle, which I think there's a kind of little building or tree house in. And I always thought what a great thing to be able to own that little island of privacy in the countryside. Must be a little pond in the middle there, and as I say, there's a tree house somewhere, you can see it from the other side, so it's pretty cool. I mean, as I say, if I had the money I would totally buy all the land around here and just make it even better than it is, give nature an even greater chance before they build houses on it. So yeah. Bloody brambles, everything's trying to kill you. Everything's trying to get you in the woods. Ah, wow, I haven't seen one of these for years. There is, over here, the stinkiest of all mushrooms and the most phallic of all mushrooms, the stinkhorn. And it's a shame that we don't have smell-o-vision because, well, actually it's not a shame, you're very lucky we don't have smell-o-vision because that thing stinks. So yeah, these are a summer mushroom and you very often will find them in pine woodland, but in a lot of woodlands. And when they initially come up, they've got a really slimy green top to them, which fades away. The smell of them is like rotten meat, slightly more acrid, and draws all the flies in, which are then spread the spores around as it matures. Things have been taking little bites out of it. And yeah, you can see a fly on there right now. Very unpleasant smelling. Whole area is covered in these caterpillar, in the webbing from the silk, caterpillar silk, I suppose. It's all over it and all up into the tree. They've really had a good munch. And it's really strange how you've got this kind of white bark here. That's the webbing. This white bark here, look, it's actually enwebbed some bramble on that bit. Can you see it's actually covered it and stuck it to the tree? And there, and then as you go up, you see that's all covered in web until you get up to the actual bark at the top, where it goes back to bark again. These guys are seriously active this year, these caterpillars. Wow. And here as well, that's crazy. Look at this. Look at this, all over it, and you can see it sort of films. Wow, that's weird. That's so weird. Wow, it's like, why would they even do that? Why? I don't know particularly a lot about these caterpillars. Why would they feel the need to? This feels amazing. This feels like material. This actually feels like silk. It's tough. It doesn't feel like web at all. It feels almost like it's plastic. But it's kind of like a really tight silk. It's crazy. Wow. There's a bit right here that's kind of like hollow underneath it. It's really strong material. That's incredible. Wow, so strange. Huh. All through here. It's the same with these ash trees. They're really getting hit. But it is opening the forest up a little bit. Opening the woodland up. And there's still some amazing beech trees all through here as well. And holly. Wow, this is beautiful. This is where it's like, as I say, very much cathedraly through here. On certain days, this feeling of openness and the bird song echoing off the trees through here is just amazing. And you'll see the further we go, the more obvious that it becomes. Wow, that's amazing. Look at this. The sunlight in those dappled spots. I find being in these places extremely relaxing. Extremely relaxing.
As I sit and watch the emerald light shine through the gem-like leaves, I'm reminded of the preciousness of these last remaining ancient woodlands. We must do all we can to preserve these magical fragments of a distant time that connect us to our cultural memory. We hope you've enjoyed this video. If you can think of any locations that you would like us to go and film at, please let us know by writing in the comments. See you next time.